As we take a look outside at 4 o'clock, a little bit of everything today. It's been gloomy here, there, and everywhere, but it is lightening up a little bit now in the metro area. But we're looking at another round of evening storms that we got to keep an eye on tonight.
And while we have seen rain on and off in the higher elevations, it's been snow all the time. Take a look at what it was like to wake up in Evergreen. That's what they love up there, though. They got so many pretty seasons. Jeff sent us this video this morning, 8 fresh inches of snow, and it's still coming down.
Let's get over to Kathy and talk about it, because it depends on where you are, Kath, as it often does in Colorado, to what you're seeing today.
That's exactly right. We have that spring super soaker. That storm is finally tracking east away from Colorado, but the counterclockwise flow bringing waves of showers back into the city. Some areas partly cloudy. The snow has come to an end on I-70, and as we look off to the west, you'll still see mostly cloudy skies. There's still the chance of showers, a rumble of thunder between now and about 8 o'clock, but with enough sunshine today, temperatures have popped up into the mid-50s, and that 24-hour temperature change is headed in the right direction. We're warming up. The winds are light, and as they shift, drier air will work in. Look at the counterclockwise swirl. Look at the waves of showers coming back into Colorado. This will be something we'll be watching for the next 2 to 3 hours, as we have a wave of showers and thunder and lightning coming in through Fort Morgan, Erie, Broomfield, Fort Collins. These showers could certainly be moving into the metro area from the northeast back toward the west and southwest within the hour. We don't have a lot of moisture left over as the storm is chugging its way off to the east. The trend will be for showers to end, skies to clear, and then temperatures are headed for the 30s tonight. All part of your weather headlines. And coming up, we're going to talk about a warmer, beautiful Mother's Day holiday weekend forecast that's just ahead.
All right, Kathy, thanks. We want to get to some breaking news at 4 o'clock, because just in the last few minutes, we've learned that charges have been dropped against 3 other officers involved in the Christian Glass case. Christian Glass was the young man shot and killed after having a mental health crisis in 2022 in Georgetown.
Steve Steger has been following this case since the very beginning, has been in touch with the family throughout. You've gone through 2 trials because one ended in a mistrial, but we know other officers were on the scene that night and also making the calls that night.
Yeah, originally there were all of the other officers who were there that night were charged with failure to intervene, failing to step in and stop Andrew Buin from firing those shots that killed Christian Glass. Now, 2 of those officers a few months ago, the charges were dropped against them because at the time the judge deemed that the 2 Colorado Division of Gaming officers were not considered real peace officers. But look at your screen right now. That is Tim Collins. Tim Collins was Andrew Buin's partner. We just learned in the last few minutes that charges against Tim Collins were dropped in court today. We also learned that charges against Idaho Springs officer Brittany Morrow, who talked to Christian Glass inside the car, that moment that so many people have seen where Christian Glass holds up the little heart shape in his hands and shows off a heart-shaped rock. That was Brittany Morrow from the Idaho Springs Police Department who was talking to him at the time. The charges against Brittany Morrow have been dropped, that failure to intervene charge. And we've also learned that Ryan Benny, the state trooper who arrived on scene, because remember, this was a traffic stop. This was a motorist assist case, which CSP often helps with. He was on the scene at the time. We know that the CSP, Colonel Packard, the head of the CSP, had been kind of critical of the prosecutors in Clear Creek County for charging Ryan Benny. We just learned that Ryan Benny's charges have been dropped as well. So you have 3 officers who were on scene that night. Tim Collins, the partner of Andrew Buin at the time, who has since moved on to the Georgetown Police Department, was put on leave after he was charged with failure to intervene. Then you have Brittany Morrow, the Idaho Springs police officer who was there, and then Ryan Benny, the CSP trooper. The one remaining officer who is still charged is Randy Williams. He was the former head of the Georgetown Police Department. We've learned, or we're looking into trying to figure out his case. Right now we know he has a hearing coming up at the end of May. The trial's supposed to start in June, but Randy Williams remains charged as far as we can tell from the court system.
So let's go back for a second just to clarify for some viewers that Andrew Buin was the officer who did shoot and kill Christian Glass and was convicted just a
criminally
couple weeks
negligent
ago.
homicide, yes.
But Is there any determination made by a judge in this case saying as to why these charges were dropped, or is it something where it's just said they're dropped and that's that?
We know that the prosecutors in this case actually filed to drop these charges, and so we're trying to get in touch with the 5th Judicial District DA's office right now to get an idea of why those charges were dropped. But in this case, the prosecution made the decision to drop the charges against the 3 officers.
Interesting. Well, the first case against Bune ended in a mistrial because of 1 juror, and we know everybody talked about how difficult it was because it's a small county too to seat a jury and then go through the whole process again.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you had that case end in a mistrial, then have to be retried, and then you saw the jury take a little bit of time in that second trial and then choose, instead of convicting Andrew Bune of second-degree murder, they chose criminally negligent homicide, which carries a little bit lighter sentence.
Well, I know this is breaking. We'll continue to take a look at it, and we'll get more from you as soon as it's available, and we'll talk to you at least at 5 o'clock.
Of course.
Thank you, Steve. At this hour, cardinals from around the world were locked away. They've started the process of choosing the next pope. Here's a live look at the Vatican. The doors to the Sistine Chapel closed and locked. The conclave underway. The cardinal voters took their oath of secrecy this morning and then did cast their first ballots. After more than 3 hours, black smoke came up, signaling no pope as of yet. The process of voting and showing smoke will continue until there is a papal selection. Tomorrow we expect 2 votes in the morning with 2 more scheduled for the evening.
Protesters gathered outside an animal research lab that has been cited by the federal government for how they treat animals. The U.S. Department of Agriculture inspected Red Beast Enterprises in Fort Collins back in February after animal activists first sounded the alarm.
Our 9 News Northern Colorado reporter Amanda Gilbert heard concerns from protesters and the lab's reactions.
The group of about a dozen protesters stood outside of the facility for several hours this afternoon.
Shut them down! Shut them down!
When a U.S. Department of Agriculture report cited a research lab in Fort Collins for animal welfare violations,
Oh, golly.
Sheila Green thought of her own dogs.
Yes, I have 2 Boston Terriers. Yeah, crazier than a sack of rats. But you know, what would we do without them? You know, there's a reason dog is God spelled backwards.
So Green asked others to join her outside Red Beast Enterprises, also known as High Quality Research. The lab specializes in testing veterinary drugs and treatment for pets.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. The fact that it's 3 miles from my house is just mind-blowing. It breaks my heart.
Dr. Alcachenna with PETA says one of their undercover investigators took these pictures inside the lab after the lab hired her.
And while she was there, she documented the care, or rather the lack of care.
PETA says they took their 7-month investigation to the USDA, who then did their own work. The USDA report mentions a couple dozen cases of delayed or undocumented treatments for cats and dogs. It mentions torn caging material, food contaminated with fecal matter, and contaminated with shavings used for bedding.
They need someone to speak for them, and that's what we're here trying to do. Thank you so much for
organizing
coming.
this.
Green and this group's message is clear.
Shut them down!
In Fort Collins, Amanda Gilbert,
Shut them down!
9 News.
The president for Red Beast Enterprises shared a statement saying the company inspects the chain link gates in the dog enclosures several times a week. They say they've swapped food bowls, and they're also implementing a heartworm prevention protocol. He said their latest USDA report, dated April 30th, came back with no citations.
Today is the last day of the state legislative sessions. Bills that don't have action by midnight will die. There are many bills that haven't been resolved, including the rideshare safety law, legislation addressing AI and union rights. Our politics guy, Marshall Zellinger, is keeping an eye on everything happening at the Capitol. He's going to have much more next with Kyle Clark at 6.